Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another Stitch With Me video. It's been a little while since I did a video, and mainly because I've been dealing with some tendinitis here, and at least I think it's tendinitis here at the base of my left thumb, which makes stitching a little bit difficult. And well, not so much that it's hard to stitch, but more that I get pain in my thumb when I'm stitching. So I haven't been doing quite as much as I normally do, and I haven't been able to do any more hard hanger because I can't grip the fabric, because I stitch that in hand, and I can't grip the fabric long enough to really make it worthwhile. So there won't be any of those until I can get this healed. I've been wearing a brace, at least at night. Yeah, I do. I cheat and take it off to stitch a bit during the day. But I have a doctor's appointment next week for a routine appointment, so I'm going to ask him about it then, and he'll probably tell me to do what I'm already doing and continue to wear the brace for probably 4 to 6 weeks until it subsides. So that's why you haven't seen me for a little bit. A little bit about what I'm working on today. Barbara Hudson of Queenstown Samplers has been a Facebook friend of mine for quite some time, especially when I was really into doing what I was all into, is what everybody's saying, is what everybody's using these days. And I was all into samplers, and that was really all I stitched for quite a long time, and have since broadened out a little bit. However, back in, I think it was October, a local friend of mine and I went to Reston, Virginia to visit another stitching friend that we have. And when we go, we usually go for a long weekend to see her. And we were fortunate enough to be down there, and I say down because we live in Pennsylvania, and our friend, as I said, lives in Reston, Virginia, which is right outside of D.C. But we were fortunate enough to be down there during the time that the Loudon Sampler Guild had their meeting. So my friend Gay, who's the one that lives there, took us along to the meeting, and I was very fortunate enough to meet Barbara in person, because she is also a member of the Loudon Sampler Guild. And we chatted, and for quite some time. She's just a lovely, lovely person. So enjoyed, actually I was thrilled to meet her. But she told me about a sampler that she had that was going to be released at Nashville. And when she told me the name of the sampler, it was like, oh my God, you really, 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 really need to send me one of these. When you're ready to release it, let me know. I will send you payment, and I want this sampler. Well, as you all, or most of you know by this time, that my name is actually Karen Bug, B-U-G-G. So it's Bug with 2 G's. A name that in this area there aren't really, most most of the families around this area are all related. I know of one other that is not part of our relation, but most of us in this area are related in one way or another. Well, Barbara Hudson happened to tell me that she had a sampler that was Miria Bug from 1845. So of course, you know, I went crazy. And of course, even though I'm not stitching a lot of samplers these days, this is one I just had to have. So that's what I'm working on today. And let me see if I can get a picture in the frame here of, I'm trying to, I hope this is showing. I can't really see too well in my camera because I have it up higher so I don't bump it. So here we go. So it's Miria Bug, and then this is the sampler. I hope you're seeing this. I think so, from what I can tell. And her name is on each side of the house. So this is going to be my Stitch With Me and Friday Off the Grid project. Now, already what I've done is these flowers along the outside border were originally charted to be these colors. And since I'm using 25 count mushroom Lugana, I felt like they were just a little light, so I darkened them up a bit. I'm undecided if I'm actually going to let this one here or if I'm going to frog it and change it to these darker colors. What I may do is just use the lighter colors periodically throughout, but do the darker colors in most of them. So that's my plan for that. The center verse, see if I can show you that again. Yeah, there we go. The verse in the center doesn't stand out real well. And that's in this lightest tan. So I may also darken that up a little bit. So I'm not a true what's the word I want? I don't always feel like I have to stick to exactly what the original stitcher stitched it as. I do like to take some creative license and make it my own. So that's probably what I will be doing. Is I know Barbara tried to make the colors as true to the original as she could, which is what she always does. She's even no, she's even charted the mistakes as in here, and she's good. She's kind enough to mark your pattern with little arrows to give you the heads up to those mistakes, which is fabulous, so that as in this, you don't get around to a border and go, oh my God, what did I do wrong? It's not meeting. Well, yeah, it's not meeting because you probably stitched it correctly, and this little gal made some mistakes in there. So I'm not going to fix those mistakes at this point, but I will probably play a little bit with color. And then at the bottom, now right now I'm stitching it upside down because it's on my scroll frame, and it's spread a little bit further than what I would normally like to reach, so I turn everything upside down and stitch it that way until I get to a point where I can flip it around correctly and stitch comfortably in that direction. But what I'm going to put underneath the sampler is just a little phrase to say that this is my interpretation of, I believe you say her name, Miria, but it's my interpretation of the sampler, and then put my own name and date and place where I live at the bottom of it, so that it is uniquely my own then. So that's what we're working on today. Now, probably because of the way I have this set up, I'm not going to flip over to end my threads, because that's going to bump this camera and make everything wiggle terribly. So you may just see me lay my thread out to the side, and I'll go back and finish them off later. If I can catch them in some other stitching as I go along, I may also do that. I like to do a pin stitch. However, pin stitch is rather difficult for me on 25 count. Splitting these little threads can be a big challenge. And I know somewhere along the line I read that someone had suggested a chenille needle to do that because it's sharper, and I did get some of those. However, I did not want to take the time to test it out during a Stitch With Me video, so that will wait till maybe a little bit later today when I stitch. Right now my thumb is doing pretty well because I had the brace on all night, and this is early in the morning, so hopefully we'll be able to have a nice little video here. Another thing that I thought about talking about, I know a few of you, well, Caroline is, and I'm sure there's plenty of others out there that have Vicki Clayton's hand-dyed fibers, which are totally fabulous. And it's such a shame that she stopped dyeing silk threads. Now, I'll tell you, and I do believe this is public knowledge, because when she had her website that we all ordered from, I know it was discussed on there quite a few times. And Vicki happens, now I haven't talked to her for quite some time, since she is no longer dyeing silk thread. The last I knew, she was dyeing yarn and other kind of specialty fibers, so I haven't talked to her for a while. But she is a friend of mine, and she actually lives only, I'm going to say probably 45 minutes from me. Williamstown, Pennsylvania is in the coal regions, and it's really not that far from me. We're just, I'm just south of her. And like I said, it's about 45 minutes. I don't remember the miles, but in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty close. But just a little bit, like I said, this was all discussed on the website, and some of this is just my opinion, but it is a shame that she stopped dyeing silk. And I know there were many, many of us that were just heartbroken about that. However, a little bit of the backstory of how that happened is that in the beginnings, I don't know if boycotted is the word that I want, but a lot of designers, at least this is all according to Vicky, what she had talked to me about. A lot of the designers didn't want to use her thread, and a lot of the shop owners, even though she would gladly sell to shops, did not want to carry her thread. And I know all of you are going, "Oh my God, why not? She had the best silk out there," which she really, really did. It was gorgeous silk. It was like stitching, taking a hot knife through butter. I mean, I loved it. I had more than my share. And actually, I even helped Vicky when she did oh my God, what was the name of it? I can't remember if it was Stitching Jubilee or one of those festivals that was held at the Marriott in Lancaster. I helped work her booth with her. But anyhow, a lot of shop owners did not want to carry her thread, and a lot of designers did not want to use her thread for the simple reason that a shop owner, their price for the thread was the same as the price that you and I bought it off the website. So essentially what she was doing was selling to the public at a wholesale price. So that in essence didn't sit well with the needlework industry. Because say I'm Sally Jones, shop owner, and I want to carry her line of fiber, I would have to pay whatever the price was at a time. And I know I started buying thread from her when it was less than $1 a skein. It was maybe 65 cents for a skein. So I bought from her a lot of years. So a shop owner, say we'll use just the $1 a skein. The shop owner paid $1 a skein. So in order for them to sell it in their shop, they would have reasonably had to charge $2 a skein. And do the math. Why would people want to go to, other than to support their needlework shop, the majority of people are not going to buy it from the shop when they can go to the website and buy it for the same price as a shop owner. So that kind of gave her a bad name in the grand scheme of things. and didn't want to, it's not that people didn't want to use her thread. It was people could get her thread cheaper direct than to get it from the shop. So for that reason, shops didn't carry it and designers didn't use it. So right there, and this part is strictly my opinion. Right there, that kind of limited, how can I say this? That limited her opportunity for continued growth of her business. Because, I mean, in fact, I did do some house cleaning and downsizing, and I did sell what I had left of her thread, mainly because I didn't have enough of certain colors to do whole projects anymore. And I didn't want to start something and run out. And really, the projects that I do these days are such a large size that I just didn't want to risk it. So I really just kind of sold off what I had. But be that neither here nor there. In general, people are only going to hoard so much of that thread of her silk fibers before they kind of get saturated with it and are not going to buy a whole lot anymore. And that's kind of, over the years, what happened is people got and had so much that her sales were considerably declining. And this was Vicky and Bob's only source of income. I mean, they were in their previous life before hand-dyed fiber, they were both nurses. In fact, I believe, if I remember correctly, that's how they met. But both of them had given up their nursing career and went into the dyeing business full time. So this was their income. So they had to look for ways to maintain that income. They originally lived in Byron, New York. And because the business was doing so well and they wanted to leave New York because of the tax situation and all of that, they found a place here in Pennsylvania, like I said, that isn't far from where I live, and moved here. And I believe, maybe it was, I'm going to say within about the next 5 years, the business started taking a slump. So with that, she made the decision to no longer dye silk embroidery floss, but moved into the yarn arena. And actually, that was the last I knew. I have not talked to her in a very, very long time. So that was the last I knew of what they were doing. They may have well retired by now. I'm thinking Vicky and I were close to the same age, and I've been retired, so 2, 3, 4. Um, they may have retired by now. I know she still has her, in fact, I just looked, she still has her shop on Etsy, and she's dyeing chenille and some other trims, but I don't see anything more on that Etsy site. And I do know that when she was selling yarn, she would go to different yarn shows, like she did the stitching show in Lancaster. She would go to different yarn shows and stitch there. But I do think her demise was the fact that she sold to the public at the same price as what, well, at wholesale price. So it wasn't profitable for shops to carry her thread. And of course, we all know needlework business really has to be a you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of business, so that, you know, the designers are going to use the threads that are readily accessible in the needlework shops. So the designers are supporting the shop by making patterns that support what shops sell, and then the shops support the designers by stocking their charts. So it's, you know, it's basically a you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back kind of scenario. So I know it's sad. It's very sad that Vicky isn't producing anymore, because it really was some of the best silk out there. It was the first silk I stitched with, so wow, it was very hard for me to want to use anything else. But that's sad, and that's just the way it is, and just the story as I know it and as I remember it. So I thought I'd just pass it along as a bit of information for those of you that are wondering whatever happened and why it happened. And like I said, to the best of my knowledge, what I have told you is, other than my opinion, is public knowledge, because she often talked about that on her site, because there was a forum on that site for users, and it was quite an active forum, and that's where I met a lot of my online stitching friends, and met some great people there, and still friends to this day. I mean, we might not talk as often as we used to, but a lot of us are still friends even today. So that's pretty much the Vicky Clayton story. I don't know how long we're at here. And then I thought I'd share a funny story with you for Ginger Gerald. We all know Gerald's learning how to knit, and kudos to him. Absolutely fabulous. I really love to see more men taking an interest in the arts. It always gets attributed to, oh, that's a woman's thing, but you know what? It's an anybody thing, and I want to tell you, I have seen some men do the most gorgeous work, even better than any woman. Um, they do outstanding work. And Gerald, kudos to you for learning how to knit. And from what I've seen, you're doing a fantastic job. But what I thought I'd share is a funny story about when I learned to knit. My mother was, at the time when I was young, was an avid knitter. Um, she made beautiful pieces. We always had sweaters, hats, mittens. Um, she even later in life got into making I don't know how many of you heard of them, but Mary Maxim uh, put out a lot of patterns for sweaters with all kinds of designs in them. They were heavy, bulky sweaters. Um, and my mother would make them, and then she would line them, and a lot of times that's what I wore to school because it was heavy, it was warm. Um, some of them had geometric designs, some of them had animals on them. I know she made, some friends wanted ones with cows on them, so she did those. She did some with deer, all kinds of beautiful sweaters. But anyway, I was maybe, I'm going to say, probably 6 or 7 when I wanted to learn to knit. So, of course, Mom was very open to that and gave me some scrap yarn and gave me a set of knitting needles that went with that scrap yarn. And she didn't teach me how to cast on first, but she started with teaching me the knit stitch. Well, I could do it. And I did my first row across. And I knit those stitches so darn tight on that needle that even she had a hard time getting them off. They were so tight. You could not hardly budge those things. In fact, I think what she ended up having to do was cut them off because I made them so tight. And I always laughed about that. But the even funnier story was when I was a little older and had become pretty proficient at knitting. In fact, it got to the point, and this is unusual that this happens, but my mother and I knit exactly the same tension. So, which is very odd, but she could be knitting something. What am I doing here? She could be knitting something. I could pick it up and work on it a little bit, and you could not tell the difference between where she knit and where I knit. So that's how alike our knitting was. But I was in junior high school. So that's your 13, maybe. And I decided I wanted to make a sweater. And she said, okay. And we found a pattern that I liked. And she got me the yarn. I started knitting this sweater. Now, of course, think about when you were 13. How good was your attention span? Yeah, not so much. I got the front done, and I got the back done, and then it kind of went in the pile of, maybe I'll finish it, maybe I won't. So fast forward, I might have been 12 actually when I started it. So fast forward to the age of now probably about 14. School dance is coming up in a couple weeks. Oh crap, what did I do here? Hold on a second. Okay. School dance is coming up in a couple weeks. Now back in those days, you couldn't wear slacks to school, or jeans, or anything of that sort. It was skirts or dresses, and that was it. But I had this skirt that this sweater would have went perfect with. So all I had to finish was the sleeves. Now here's the first thing to keep in mind. Well, let me just say first that all I had to finish was the sleeves. So back out came the sweater. I started a sleeve, and because I had such a limited amount of time to get both sleeves finished and sew the whole thing together, my mom helped me and made the other. I made one sleeve, she made the other sleeve for me. Sewed it together. Okay. School dance night came. Finishing it up just in time, like maybe that afternoon before the school dance that evening. Okay, so think about, you started it when you were 12. You finished it when you were 14. Do you see where I'm going with this? Girls grow between those ages. So here I am, prouder than proud that Yahoo, I got this sweater's finished. I can wear this to the dance. So I get all ready. I put my sweater on. I look at myself in the mirror, and I just want to cry. It was a gorgeous sweater. However, the sleeves fit perfectly. But the body of the sweater was way above my belly button. Now, had it been many years later, when that was the style, it would have been perfect. But in that day, not so much. So I was one disappointed teenager who spent all that time on a sweater. And there was no way I could wear it. And probably there would have been a way to fix it, like rip the top part out from like the armholes, or rip the top out back to the bottom of the armholes and lengthen it. But it was kind of too late for that because the dance was that night. So needless to say, there was no sweater wearing for this gal. But when I look back at it now, I mean, that was just hysterical. It makes me laugh every time I think about it. Of the sleeves fit so perfect. They were the right length. They weren't baggy. They were just absolutely perfect. But the body was just way too short. So that's really what I had planned to talk about today. And I honestly have my phone in a position where I can't see how long this has been. I'm thinking we have to at least be at a half an hour or so. And I know you guys prefer a bit shorter of a video rather than a longer one. So we're going to end it about here. And I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to all of you that have subscribed to my channel. I'm getting new subscribers like all the time, every day, at least one, if not two or three, every day, which just totally, as I said before, just totally blows my mind. I never thought that I would have this many people interested in my little tutorials that I've done or my Stitch With Me videos. I really would want to do a lot more Stitch With Me's. If you have ideas for topics, please leave them in the comments below, because if there's something you want to know about or something you want to learn, I'm happy to do those kinds of tutorials for you, or talk about that subject for you. If it's something I know about, I'm more than happy to share knowledge. So please leave me any ideas for topics, and we'll look into seeing what we can do about those. But I just have to say thank you to each and every one of you for watching my channel. I think till the next time, I have to think about what I want to do, but because I have surpassed 1,500 members, and I think it's pushing 17 at this point, so I think it's time to do a giveaway. So I'm gonna look through some things or see what I can come up with for a giveaway. And I'll do that within the next video or two. I will say for sure next week, I will not be doing a video. I'm leaving on Wednesday, letting my poor hubby home alone. I'm leaving on Wednesday to go back down to Reston, Virginia, because the three of us want to go to visit the needlework show at Woodlawn. I don't know if all of you know about Woodlawn. It is a very, very prestigious needlework show here on the East Coast. People enter from all over, and to win there is really quite the honor. It is not a juried show, however, it is a judged show. And there are no prizes per se. Like you do not win if you win, you do not like get a monetary prize or anything of that sort. It's just the honor of knowing you have won there. I have 2 pieces entered. I have entered Do Bears by Long Dog Samplers, which is stitched 1/1 on 28 count Lugana. And I've also stitched or have a piece of hard hanger, just a small doily entered. Now, I have heard that my hard hanger doily won a 2nd place, and my Do Bears won a 1st place, which I am totally excited about. So, as I said, we're going next week to see everything there. It's a beautiful estate in Alexandria, Virginia. I forget the whole story of it. The last name of the woman that lived there was Custis, I believe. And she was, in her time, a very avid needleworker. And this needlework show is held in her honor every year. They've been having this show for 55 years. And as I said, it is a very prestigious show. So in my next video, because I failed to take a picture of my pieces before I sent them or had taken them down to Woodlawn. So in my next video, I will have pictures for you of the pieces I entered and be able to show them to all of you. I'm just so honored and so excited to have won something there. Just as information, this is the 2nd time I've entered, and on my video, my Stitch With Me video, I did that where I showed you all the samplers at the end. The sampler that I made for my grandson, which is a Saxon sampler that I adapted into a family history for him, also won a 2nd place at Woodlawn. So I'm just thrilled to have won there. So I will share that more with you the next time we meet. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging in there and coming back and visiting my videos and letting me ramble on to all of you. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. This Flosstube community and the Stitch With Me's and the Friday Off the Grid is such a warm, welcoming place, and it does my heart good to be part of it, and it does my heart good to have all of you be part of my world. So with that, my friends, I'm going to say goodbye, and wish all of you a great weekend and stitch all the things that you love and find your joy when you do it. Bye.